Hey everybody, my name is Caleb Ward. I am the program manager for Late Night. I'm here with Chris Blakeman and Ben Kleinman, co-creators of the Telethon show. Say hey guys, this is Late Night.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How's it going?
Well, it's good to have you guys here. We love a good talk show. We love a good telethon show. So it just made perfect sense to have the pilot in the block with us. This is a question for either or of you guys, but sort of where was the impetus for the telethon show? Obviously, it's influenced by a lot of different things, but I want to know directly sort of, where you guys drew your influences from to create this monstrosity. And I mean that in the right way.
Well, thank you. I had actually written kind of a version of this for, I'm involved with this local community theater here in New York. And every year we put on this charity gala to help them raise money. And one year we decided the theme should be telethon. I mean, we'd all seen bits of the Jerry Lewis telethon over the years. And we were like, that seems like a fun idea for a live show. Let's go ahead and do it. So I kind of had that in the back of my head for a long time afterwards. And when we were kind of trying to come up with a way to present our sketches in kind of an episodic format.
Sure.
And one of the ideas I pitched was that telethon idea. So I pitched it to Chris and the other member of our group, Kian, and it just kind of went from there. So it had started this, hour-long live show that was, for this local theater, and we just kind of took elements from it here and there. We picked out a few jokes. We took bits of inspiration and kind of combined it into this episode of TV.
Chris, anything you want to add to that?
I think he just covered everything so perfectly. Ben had the brilliant idea, and really, we've been a sketch team for so long here in New York, and we're kind of looking for, what can we do next? What's a bit of a magnum opus or our best version of stuff? Way to put things together. And when pitching, looking for some sort of skeleton to pull everything together, that was, the one to stick, the really most fun piece we can play with and work with.
Well, I love that there's sort of there's like this timelessness to it. It feels very much of a moment, but also very present, but also very much like late 70s, early 80s. Was that sort of a conscious choice to kind of leave it relatively like ambiguous, of just sort of like, here we are, you're just going to accept this for what it is?
I would say so, to a point. It was, there's obviously the 70s, 80s-ness of the telethon, and then we also threw in the 90s-esque commercials. So like, we were very kind of ambiguous with when it was supposed to take place. And that's, to your point, I'm glad it came across as timelessness, because we want people to be able to watch it at any time of day, any day of the week, and
any holiday season.
It's a big Christmas show. Christmas and Passover, it seems like.
Yeah,
got
the big two.
Very multicultural, so I really appreciate it. It felt very inclusive. So, what was sort of like the right? Obviously, writer's room being just the two of you in a room, I would imagine. Were there any ideas that you guys were like, all right, that's just like maybe too far, or some things that you had to cut through? I have to imagine at a certain point you're like throwing everything at a wall and just seeing what's going to stick. Especially when it comes to sort of like, it's not necessarily like a variety show in terms of like the Carol Burnett show or Red Skelton or anything like that, but like there are variety aspects to it, which you would see at a telethon. So I'd love to know just sort of like what the pitch process was like, as far as like, okay, yes, no, maybe so.
Sure. Chris.
We have our third member, our third writer, Kian. He isn't here specifically due to his caca mouth and constantly pushing the envelope just way too far. With the two of us, I
really wanted him to just like pop out of the couch behind you, like just like, oh yeah, you thought so.
No. I think we've been working with each other for, gosh, Ben, has it been like 7 years, 8 years?
7, 8
at this point? So I think we have a really nice shorthand and instinct sensibility of we all know what our strengths are. We all have, I think common sense stuff on what's really tasteless and what's fun and works. And sort of going back to before of like, how can we put together the best of ourselves in this? And that came from just trial and error, looking back on what worked, what didn't work. We have a few of the sketches in there are sort of some greatest hits that we have. We did a few new pieces for it. We used to do a lot of live shows. So probably, I guess, the more bizarre, not really line crossing thing, but we have our Content Kings bit. That's probably the most absurd. That came from a whole live show that we had done a couple years ago in Chicago. So yeah, I mean, I think just by that point we've been together long enough. We had a feeling of what was going to work and what wasn't for ourselves.
Yeah, and some of the, we discussed a couple other ideas to present it in some sort of like masterpiece theater format or like a crypt keeper format. We even discussed this kind of Vincent Price style presentation of like a horror show. I mean, really just the idea we wanted something, as Chris said before, to act as a skeleton that could weave in entertainment. And so, immediately stuff like Tales from the Crypt came to mind, or I mean, the Telethon is was our final choice, but like all these shows that presented content in that way, that's kind of like, those are all the different themes we ran through when we were trying to come up with the best idea that we felt most excited about, because then we could, effectively pretend our sketches were live performances and then also incorporate live performances like the Content Kings and the children playing music and stuff. So we were all, anything that allowed us to do that was, we just ran through the list and we settled on this one.
Right. It feels very big. I'm sure, being independent creators, you're always working within, a budget, you're working within, very specific limitations. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, Chris, your father invented pizza. I think that was the whole thing. And so we're
working with billions.
Yeah. Those Parasite posters are really gonna pay off eventually.
Yeah.
So, it feels big, it doesn't feel limited. And so, how did you bring a crew together? It's like, there's a lot of people watching these pilots who are also independently creating, were there any fun stories of like how you got things together, how you were able to get a set? I'm assuming you probably utilized a lot of like the theater that you work with pretty often. It's sort of like, okay, well, what do we have at hand? I mean, I know when I was directing a lot, it was like, okay, well, what do I have in my pockets, basically,
Yeah, that's very, you nailed it on the head with regards to location. The man he runs this theater, his name's Adam, theater called Arc Stages in New York. We used the same stage that we put on the live performance on for that gala a few years back. And he's such a nice guy, and he was so willing to work with us and provide us with all the props and set pieces we needed. When we ran in there and we're like, all right, we need something that could be a phone bank. He was like, well, how about this 10-foot long piece of wood that I made for another purpose? You're like, yeah.
I would have loved it if he was like, well, how about this phone bank I have?
But it was perfect. It fit four of us exactly right, and we draped a curtain over it. It worked wonderfully. And then also he had a hookup with a printer that helped us print out the decals for the Telethon show that we had on the back wall, we had on the front of the phone bank, all at cost. So he was a lifesaver when it came to saving money in that respect. As for the crew, I mean, Chris and Kian, they went to Hofstra Film School and developed this wonderful group connection of talented cameramen and also Chris. I mean, you found the director through work, right?
Yeah, the one who also went to Hofstra. Yeah, we had a guest director come on for the telethon aspect of it, but I mean, really, we've just been, and that's John Rebecki. I work with him at a TV station. He's very talented in that medium. We've just been fortunate with the talent pool that we've had from being in New York, people in film school that stuck around on the East Coast, and I don't know, have been gracious enough and trusted us enough to lend us their hands, their equipment. We can pay them only, I don't know, every 3 or 4 shoots, and
Sure.
you know, it's
But they know
definitely
there's
never
one coming. That's the thing.
right.
They're like,
Exactly.
not today, but next time,
Lots
maybe.
of back end percentage, you know,
Right.
contracts and
Yeah.
everything.
Oh yeah. I'm sure the
Uh,
back end on this thing is just wild, you
yeah,
know?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just very fortunate and true. I don't know. I hate using term networking
Say
because
it.
it always feels
Say it.
gross and slimy. But you know,
Yeah.
realize in
Say it.
hindsight, that's what it's been. It's just, you know, networking, who you know,
Yeah.
be nice to have lunch with. And yeah, it's just been very fortunate. Everyone supporting us by showing up to these things, whether it's location or
Yeah.
you know, polling focus for the day.
I mean, I mean, so much of it is relationship, you know, and I would wager to say it even goes beyond just sort of like the stuff you're working on. It's like even as you get into bigger tiers, it's like, who did I enjoy the most working with on this project? Who was the most collaborative? And I want to take them with me to the next gig, you know. I think that's really sort of at the heart of like independent. I work in independent film as like a full-time gig, and this is independently produced, you know, episodic. And I would say when it comes to episodic, it's like even more so, because you're like, this could just be on the internet, or this could turn into a big thing, you know, or this could just sit on my hard drive forever, you know. It's I always have a policy of just like, don't be an asshole. It's so easy
Yeah.
to not do that.
Policy.
So,
Very good
Mhm.
policy.
you know, it's a solid policy.
Yeah.
So let me ask sort of like where you know, where do you go from here? Like, I'm sure you guys have just like tons of ideas for, you know, for taking the telethon show further. You know, are you working? Are you put together a pitch deck? Are you taking meetings? You doing lunches? You just, you know, I don't know what the ivy of the New York, going to the Four Seasons.
This is it. We've
Yeah.
cleared our whole calendar for this.
This is all you
Moment
had on
right
the
here.
calendar for today was
That's it. All
talking
bets
to
are
me
off.
for a half hour. I'm
We
so
canceled
sorry.
everything after
I'm
this.
so sorry to disappoint you.
You're doing an okay job.
Live and learn.
Yeah. So so where does this go from here?
Well, we released we wrapped on this at an inopportune time. We wrapped on this February 2020. So it was it was
You got it in the
not-
can. That's, you know.
Yeah. It was not the best time for going to do meetings and pitching projects and creating more episodes. We had talked to a few people who have brought it to networks on our behalf and spoken to people who had more or less told us they were not particularly interested in buying one episode at the moment, that they wanted more of a full project.
Right.
So we had a couple, you know, meetings by proxy here and there. Our goal, I mean, we have visions for it. I mentioned the kind of anthology idea before of like every season could be a different style anthology. Like the first season's a telethon season, the second season's a horror season. Really just any way that we can continue to present our sketches in a fun way, and not like a traditional sketch show way either. I mean, guys like Key and Peele, their show's incredible. But the spine of it is, you know, they're in front of an audience just talking to them.
Right.
We always found the idea of doing something kind of wild with the spine exciting, like creating this whole universe. And so we thought about that, and then another idea we had was to really explore the inner workings of a telethon show. So you know, we have this first episode as if it's presented to a live audience. Future episodes, we go behind the scenes. We go
I like that.
like leading up to the show, or what happens after the show, or what happens when they actually raise the money. We had kind of all these ideas for potential ways to take it forward in future seasons. But our goal is still to bring it in front of someone and hopefully get interest to make another episode, or make another 2 episodes, even if we're being crazy. But that's
okay, all right. Don't get greedy. All right, don't go all Hollywood.
You're right.
I have to say, one of my favorite bits in the show is when they accidentally dial the sex line and the money goes down $20. It really got me. I just love the idea of like, I've just never seen a telethon number like go down, and something about just seeing the number change really like just like tickled me. I don't know what, it was something so simple. It was just so simple, and I absolutely loved it.
I appreciate that.
You know, kudos. It's great.
Thank you.
Well, awesome. How can we find you guys? Like, how can people track the show, track you guys, track your sketches, things like that? Instagram, MySpace, Friendster, things, very popular social media platforms. Are you on
Definitely
TikTok?
YouTube.
Are you on TikTok? It's okay to say that.
We're not.
I have to ask people if they're on TikTok now, which I hate.
Oh, wait, one last thing. You guys on TikTok?
That's how I need to be
YouTube.
Yeah,
YouTube
YouTube.
is everything's on YouTube. Yeah, we got rid of our official site, I don't know, years ago because
Sure.
all traffic was
We have
going
an
to YouTube.
Instagram, we have a Twitter, and we have a Facebook, but the bulk of our updates definitely come over our YouTube channel. Like when we do live shows, we put up videos announcing them on the YouTube. That's
What's the
where all
YouTube channel people can look for?
Cool Kid
Comedy.
Cool Kid Comedy.
Cool Kid Comedy.
Nice.
Cool with the C, comedy with the C.
Got it.
Yeah.
Singular kid. It's not kids.
Got it. Cool Kid
Weirdly,
Comedy.
everybody
I can't tell you the amount of times we've been introduced at a show as Cool Kids Comedy. It is
like we made the typo. We screwed up our name, and they do the favor to fix it for us.
That's the thing, man. You got to put that in your rider, otherwise they'll just walk all over
or
you.
we walk otherwise.
Yeah. Yep. I respect
right
that.
There.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, guys. Thanks so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing some more from the Telethon show.
Thank you so
much. Thank you, Galen.
All right.